Hi friends, Scott here from Sharing the Burden. Just gonna share a little bit about this hazy, overcast, rainy Saturday, but actually it's a good day. A little bit of rain has taken away a lot of the snow and ice, and given some of us, like the guys who do everything too late, like myself, to get back into the eaves trough and maybe prevent some problems come thaw time in the spring. Anyway, as most of you know, I'm from Sharing the Burden, and my main concern in life is that charity, that fellowship that allows us to go around sharing and listening and sharing and listening and listening and sharing, and we do a lot of that, probably 80% or more of that in penal institutions and corrections facilities. Out in Milton and around the GTA. And what we do mainly is give people the opportunity to share in a safe environment that no matter where that environment is, that we're able to set the meeting up in such a way that people have enough trust by virtue of listening to how we share to be able to share some of their personal stories, which in many cases are very hurtful and rarely get told because they're painful. However, pain is contagious almost the way bad things can be. And what I mean by that is pain is not something we like, but the expression of pain is what I'm trying to say is quite contagious because it's like it's something inside trying to get out. And when it is released, the unburdening process is huge. And, I discovered this just by accident in many ways by going around sharing my stories in different places. And, and especially the story of losing my only son to an overdose of fentanyl and being able to talk about that and to make a difference in a lot of young people's lives to truly express how a hard hit, a dad, a mom, a brother, sister, a friend, is hit when somebody loses their life to one of these drug overdoses. And this fentanyl is taking out a lot of our kids, a lot of our loved ones, and not kids only from troubled families, I'll tell you, folks. A lot of prominent kids, other kids that would be on coke somehow end up trying a little bit of, heroin or morphine or many of the different drugs, but somehow they seem to get into fentanyl today, and somehow they OD on it in many cases and die. Apparently the high is so wonderful that you got to keep going back, and at almost any cost. I know people who have been brought back up to 15 times or more, by somebody happened to have the preventative kit around that saves a life when they OD on this stuff. So very serious problem, and I just like to reach out there as the director of Sharing the Burden and ask folks if you'll please help us. And we need both financial help. We need more than both. We need financial help. We need prayer help. We need volunteers to train and become facilitators in these jails. There are 40,000 people in jails across Canada, representing about 80% of the prison population here, who are basically behind bars because of direct results of substance abuse. Whether they were just users and had to get more and couldn't get more, and their lives became more and more messed up, and the harder they tried, the worse it got, and the worse it got, the more they needed. The more they needed, the more it became evident that they'd have to sell the stuff if they wanted to get enough of it to use themselves and not be broke in the process. So, and there's a whole myriad of reasons, but the fact remains 80% of the prison pop is really there because of drug abuse. So, we've got to work on this, and simple incarceration is definitely not the answer. And I'm not here to knock anything, the judicial system, the way people are incarcerated, none of that. I'm just here to say that this just doesn't work. And if we want to change society, we've got to train these people to not only want to, but to initiate and to get themselves in order, and more importantly, that they will share how they got in order with those back home who represent a much greater chunk of population than they themselves represent. It is said that an addict, alcoholic type probably affects somewhere between 5 and 10 people. So let's be conservative. Let's say 4. If there's 40,000 in there, there's 160,000 outside who are affected, and these who are affected also need recovery. They need help. They need to express their stories, their pain, and it's often worse than the actual addict, him or herself. So, there's a massive thing has to happen, and if we hit that 250,000 people, or 180,000 in this case, and when you do a little bit of extrapolation and hitting a part of society that, for the most part, rarely gets any help at all. So, we're going to make a big difference in the entire complexion of society if we make this happen, and we can make it happen. There's no reason not to. So, if you'll help me, and if you happen to be deep-pocketed, as they say, and are looking for a real bona fide, excellent way to make a difference, short-term, long-term, and for absolutely everybody, you may get on board with this one with me. And please feel free to connect with me, Scott at sharingtheburden.ca, 2 A's in Scott, or 647-222-0515. Go to our websites, stbradio.ca. Listen to some of the broadcasts we do. We do live recovery every Tuesday morning at a community station in Stouffville, 102.9 FM, where we actually talk to addicts, to alcoholics, to people affected by other people's addictions, and so on. Live, everyday recovery. Some fall, some get up. We want the real stuff, not the heroes, not the wonderful stories. We want all the stories so people realize really what they're up against and what reality looks like. So real-time, unrehearsed, that's what we do every Tuesday. So you can go out to stbradio.ca or sharingtheburden.ca and pick those up, listen to some of those and see what we're doing, or tell me you have something you want to share, and we'll get you on there to share it live with us. So, folks, I said a lot more than I planned to, but my appeal for this is very real. And God knows, for those of you who believe, that what we're doing is making a difference. We'll see a couple of thousand or more inmates face-to-face over 2019, and if that expands properly, it'll be multiples of those 2,000. So, we can make a difference, and a huge difference, with a simple program that works in an hour, and people do change. They find the hope, they find the courage, they find what they need to keep going and to want to fight, and to fight the pain caused by real recovery. It is never pain-free. It always hurts. So, folks, if you want to get on board with me, please connect. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. God bless you all.